Hello, beautiful earthlings, and welcome to my channel. So as you can tell by the title, we're going to be cooking spaghetti squash. So first you just want to set your oven at 400 Fahrenheit. And then after that, you want to clean your squash. Obviously, we're not going to eat the skin, but I mean, I like to clean it because we don't know who touched it or where it's been. Then you're going to cut it. So where you can see my fingers, we're going to cut it along this way. You could cut it the other way, but from my experience, I prefer cutting it this way. I find that it, like when you're pulling the strings at the end, to make the spaghetti, it just kind of pulls better. But get yourself a knife that actually works. And I have no idea why I tried this knife. That's like a bread knife, so don't be like me and don't use a good knife and make sure it's sharpened. And yeah, you can see that I'm really struggling with a bread knife, so don't follow my knife skills. So I'm getting a better knife, and even with the better knife, I was still struggling because I think this one was a little bit more on the harder side. So if you're struggling, just get somebody else's help because you do not want to cut yourself. Here is my dad helping me cut the squash. As you can tell, it's much easier for him, and he got another knife. So maybe take notes from my dad and use that type of knife, a shorter one, and one that is sharper. But yeah, you're gonna have your two sides of the squash, and once you do, it looks like this. So the squash actually has seeds inside. These seeds are edible. So you're gonna go get a spoon because we are gonna take the seeds out of the squash to cook it. I'm checking if there's stickers on the squash just because I don't want them to burn in the oven, but you do you. Here I'm using the spoon to take it out, like take out the seeds and the stuff. I'm actually gonna keep this to actually make spaghetti squash seeds, like roast them. It's really, really good. Maybe I'll do another video on that. But yeah, take them out. You can use your hands. Using your hands is actually a great way to prepare food. Our brain is obviously connected to our body and our nerves, and touching our food is actually a great way to connect to our food. And so I invite you to actually use your hands. I know that goes against what maybe we're taught in school, but use your hands and eat with your hands. It's actually good for you. Just make sure they're clean. And then this is what it's going to look like when it's done. So now I'm getting a pan. So get yourself a nice large pan because we're going to put the two spaghetti squashes face down onto there. And make sure your work area is safe, like removing the knives and stuff. I'm putting them down like that with the flesh down. And then I'm getting some water. Make sure that you're getting water that is filtered. I filmed this in the summer, like 8 months ago, and I didn't have my Kangen water machine, but now I have it. So I recommend that you get chlorine-free, like clean water. So I'm adding the water there. It wasn't too much. I did like less than a half of a cup. Okay, so the squash is, or the oven is just warming up. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about squashes, and just like, I don't know, talk about them. I just looked through my this book that I used during my holistic nutrition studies. It's called the Encyclopedia of Healing Foods, the most comprehensive, user-friendly A to Z guide available on the nutritional benefits and medicinal properties of food. Also includes specific food prescription for more than 70 common ailments by Michael Murray. I don't know if I said that right. My first language is French, so I apologize, but yeah. Okay. So I just took some notes. I actually did not know this. There's summer squash and winter squashes. But both of them are part of the melon family. I just have some notes here, so if I look down, that is why. But yeah, so the squash is part of the melon family, and then there's two categories. So the summer and then the winter. So the summer ones, they don't last as long, like as food preservation, just because they have, like, everything in them is edible. So like the flesh, the seeds, the skin are all edible, and even some flowers.
For example, the zucchini flower is edible. So an example of a summer squash is the zucchini versus the winter squash. It's like pumpkins, butternut squash, spaghetti squash, and they have a hard shell. So for them, they have a longer period to store. Like in this book, it says you can actually store them for 1 to 6 months, which I had no idea you could store them for 6 months. It says in here that the ideal temperature is 50 to 60 Fahrenheit to store them at. So if you really did want to store them for 6 months, that would be the best temperature for them to stay stay good, fresh and good. And then the winter squash, they all have a hollow inner cavity where all the seeds are. So that's the difference between winter squash and summer squash. I personally really love the spaghetti squash because it's such an easy alternative to like that, because I used to eat a lot of like white pasta, like the pasta that's just higher in calories and then doesn't have much nutritional value, where like a spaghetti squash, because you can make like spaghetti out of it when you cook it. I'll show you guys will see in the video, but it actually has way more nutrients and less calories. And so that is just, if you look at the general profile of that food, it's just way healthier than, for example, eating like just a regular white like pasta that you would just eat. So some of the nutritional highlights of the spaghetti squash, they're high in carotenes. So the richer the color, the richer the concentration of the carotenes. And what is the carotene? So they are actually really good for fighting cancer, especially lung cancer for this vegetable. And they are rich in vitamin C, B1, folic acid, pantothenic acid, but potassium, dietary fiber, and actually B6 and niacin. And then, like I said, the lower calorie, but look at all those beautiful nutrients. So when you're looking at food, I always just say eat food coming from the earth. Like the earth makes the food perfectly in the way that we're supposed to consume it. Squashes are actually native to Central America, and we've been eating them for about over 10,000 years. So for example, like humans have changed and developed and continued to change, the same that the like we know we've been eating it for a long time. Like how there's like genetically modified organisms, like foods, like GMO foods, and we have so much processed foods. Like all this stuff is new. Like our bodies do not, well, our bodies are really smart and they know how to keep us as healthy and balanced and in homeostasis. But what I'm trying to say is the earth like created the foods that we need, and how we're supposed to consume them. So I always say, to keep things just simple, like eat foods from the earth. So that's just a little bit about the spaghetti squash, and yeah.
And when your oven is ready, obviously put the squashes in and you can cook them for 30 to 40 minutes. The time depending on how big your squash is. So this is my squash after like maybe 37 minutes because this one was bigger. And once it's cooked, you want to get a fork. And please use a glove because obviously the spaghetti squash is still hot. And you're going to pull the strings. This is my assistant, Mason. But yeah, you're going to pull the string from the outside in, as you can see from the video. And if you are somebody that likes your pasta maybe a little bit harder, then cook it for a little bit less time. And if you like your pasta a little bit on the softer side, then cook it for a little bit longer. And this is what it should look like. You actually get a lot from just one squash. Like it feeds our whole family and leftovers. We're a family of 3. And this is the finished product with tomato sauce, spinach, and ground turkey.